Yo guys, what is going on? It's your boy JenksTCG. Today we're gonna be talking about metagaming, play like the pros. That's the series. I was gonna script this out, but then I just didn't like how it was being produced. I wasn't. I don't know. Something was wrong with the script. I didn't like it. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna do it raw. I feel like this is a topic that is a lot easier said just going off the top of my head talking about metagaming. But if you want to improve at the game and metagame correctly, this is going to make you more successful in tournaments. And if you have that sequencing down and your other skills down, metagaming is going to be what takes you from a just another solid placement to actually winning events, because metacalls do win events. They do place high, and they usually place higher than just a good consistent deck that people play. There's a lot of examples of this. The best example I could think of is probably Toronto 2019 in recent time, when Justin Bocari and I both played Trevenant Break to a format that was dominated by a new BDIF, which was Pikarom. And sure enough, Trevenant lost to Pikarom, but we ended up playing it anyways because it beat pretty much every other deck. And at the time, I was not really good. I would say I was probably not even one of the better players in the game, and it took me to my first top 8, which turned into a top 4. I ended up throwing in the end, but it happens. But yeah, metagaming is what can take you from just an average placement to something that's incredibly powerful. A lot of people seem to make deck choices based on like comfort and the matchup percentages that they see in their head, but what a lot of people don't realize is that those aren't the only factors that go into making a good meta call. Some of the best factors for meta calling would be outside resources, talking to other people outside your testing group, and overall just getting knowledgeable about meta trends. You can see that the Trevenant example that I just mentioned works in a lot of different formats, and there have been several meta discussions that I have watched and been a part of on different channels like Celio's Network, where they talk about a meta that can be exploited like that. Another good example of this was Madison 2019, the same year, where some of my friends actually brought Pikarom, Rahul Reddy's brainchild, and then Xander Pero, myself, Justin Bocari, and Rahul played it along with Reagan, who was in seniors. And the thing with Pikarom was it didn't beat Zapdos Beast, which was a pretty popular archetype going into the regionals before, which was in Santa Clara, I believe. But then this Vileplume stall deck did super well and was brand new to the format, and it just kind of auto won against Zapdos Beast. So Zapdos Beast kind of went down a little bit in popularity, and then the biggest issue was then Reshizard, the ability version, was about a 50-50 matchup, and it's because with Choice Band, the Reshizard could then 1-KO Pikarom. So the problem here that we identified was if that beast is going to be down in popularity, Pikarom has good matchups against a majority of the field, and then the Reshizard matchup is not a huge. It's winnable, and we thought that maybe if we played against someone that's not as knowledgeable of the matchup, we could take that advantage. And another thing here is when decks are not prepared for, you have such an inherent advantage against someone that doesn't know how to play that matchup. And there were Reshizards that didn't, think to test against Pikarom, so that's why Pikarom ended up being such a good play. And then the best players in the game at the time, people like Jimmy Pendarvis, Azul Garcia Griego, Caleb Gedimer, they all played this Reshizard build that didn't play Choice Band. So in the end, we didn't win the regionals, but we did get those high placements. We had some bad draws throughout day 2. I didn't play perfectly, even though I was started as first seed going to day 2. But it just kind of shows you that these meta calls are what's going to push your placements to the top. And a lot of the times that people do well is they come up with a meta call deck idea and then they just run with it. You shouldn't be afraid to take auto losses to popular decks. A lot of the times people don't play some of the popular decks, and this is apparent through several meta changes, different regionals, different events. You can see this in League Cups, where people at League Cups tend to play a lot more decks that are better in a best of 1 environment, and then those decks just fade out going into a best of 3 environment. And it's for big events. You shouldn't be afraid to take auto losses, because the chances that you hit your auto loss, so to say, more than twice in an event is quite unlikely. So as you know, you need to get 6 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie to advance to the second day of competition in all day 2 type events. So you can afford to take 2 losses. And another big thing here is, even though you have an auto loss, it doesn't mean you lose that matchup. A lot of people are unprepared for the deck you're playing, or they might not be as good as you, so you can play better than them and win that matchup. A good example of this was when I played ADP Keldeo in Daytona Regionals, and the week following in San Diego, Reshizard was probably ADP Keldio's worst matchup. You couldn't do a whole lot. Keldeo didn't stop anything in their deck because they had Turtonator and other one prize attackers to just go right through it. And then ADP was far too slow in that format and Reshizard could just Welder twice because the supporter turn 1 rule was still in effect. So you could just 300 the ADP as fast as possible. And this is why that matchup was so bad. But the 2 Reshizards I hit in those weekends, I beat both of them 2-0. I didn't drop a game. The first one, he had some issues with resource control. He ended up benching too many things that didn't give him enough attackers. And then once I was able to just set up some Keldeos, knock out his big attackers, and then he missed a welder or 2, I was able to KO the one prize attackers that were going to threaten me. And the same thing with the second guy. I ended up decking him out a few times, and then with some poor draws on his end, I was able to overcome that. So your bad matchups aren't necessarily your bad matchups. You can win bad matchups with no problem. Obviously, sometimes you're going to hit someone that knows what they're doing. They're going to beat you, and just chalk it up to a loss. You win in playing a deck that had an auto loss to that deck, and it is what it is. You just kind of have to go with it. But that's definitely something important to think about. And I would say metagaming at smaller events, this is like league challenges, league cups, you got to think that you're there to win. And you should probably put some of the I shouldn't be sneaky about this, that away, because at the end of the day, you probably drove an hour or 2 to go to these events. You don't want to just not do well and drive home, sad. So you want to think about, what is this person playing? If you see someone sleeving a deck, you want to put that into your mind, like, oh, this person is playing this deck, I probably shouldn't play this. So if you walk into a local environment and you don't want to be super obnoxious about this or anything like that. You just kind of want to take a mental note about what's being played in the area and just kind of go from there. So for example, if I'm playing Pidgeotto to a League Cup and I see that people are playing, decks that beat Pidgeotto, I don't want to play Pidgeotto because I'm just going to have a bad day. But if I walk into an event where this Pidgeotto control deck is an amazing play because everyone else is playing decks that just can't beat it, for like a Guardian, for example, this is talking about the previous format last year, like Atlantic City time or past that. So if Pidgeotto is the play based on what I'm seeing, I'm going to play it. And, at the end of the day, I'm there to win. And you kind of have to take that mindset with local events. You don't want to go into local events and just be okay losing to the other good players in that area. Local events is another place where auto losses, you can play better than other people and then win them. So metagaming is super important, and it's definitely one of the better skills to propel someone that's good at the game itself, and then take those skills and then push them forward into getting better at the game overall, because now their deck choice is in line with the skills that they have, and that's just going to make you a better player all over the place. And with the local area thing, don't be a jerk about this. It shouldn't be taken too literally, but you want to just be cautious about what other people are playing, because at the end of the day, if you're likely going to hit those people, if you're playing in an event with 20 people and 4 people are playing an auto loss, you want to be wary about that and just kind of play accordingly. The same thing says if I walk into a room and see someone else is playing Pidgeotto, I'm going to slide text in there, because if I hit the Pidgeotto mirror, it's a tie, first of all, and it's just a mess later on. I'd rather just get the free win and play cards that could help me against other decks. So metagaming is definitely one of the skills that is super important. I would definitely pay attention to online resources, pay attention to meta trends in general. So if it's like week 3 of a format after a few regionals or events have already happened, you want to kind of see, where is this meta going? We saw in Toronto, once Trevenant did well, people were more like, oh, we don't want to play against Trevenant. And then Pikarom saw an increase in play despite doing so poorly the week before, where only one made top 32, and it actually got last place in day 2, that event that I'm talking about in Toronto. The following week was North Carolina, literally back-to-back weeks, and we saw Zorogarb get an increase in play, which beat Trevenant kind of 50-50, but as a Trevenant player, I'd say that matchup's kind of unfavored. So we saw Zorogarb increase in play. We also saw Archie's Blastoise and stuff get more popularity and put in text to deal with stall concepts in Trevenant. And the deck that ended up winning the event was Drampa Garbodor, and Drampa Garbodor beat all of those other decks. It beat Zorogarb pretty handily, probably 60-40 with the parallels and the Righteous Edge stuff, Garbotoxin, you can just lock the Zorogarb out of the game. It really destroys Archie's Blastoise because they turn off the abilities. And then its Pikarom matchup I don't think was amazing, but with Trashlanch, the items, if they can get overflowing. So the point is, you want to take a look at meta trends. And Trevenant did well, so people wanted to counter Trevenant. They played these decks that counter Trevenant, so what beats all those decks? And its Trevenant matchup wasn't very good, so you end up playing Drampa Garbodor, and Andrew Martin was the person that won that regional and just beat all those other decks, and no one was talking about Drampa Garbodor either. So this you can see this in a lot of events. You might as well just go on Limitless TCG. It's an amazing resource. Just go and check out some of the previous events. As for online events, you can kind of see this happening now. You see some top players hyping up certain archetypes. Right now we have Tord hyping up Centiskorch, which then he put Milotic into ADP or something, and now the meta is coming full circle where it was like, oh, Lucario Elemental is really good, let's hype Centiskorch, and then let's play ADP with Milotic to counter the Centiskorch, and then it's just kind of this circle. So you want to pay attention to the trends, and if you can jump on a trend before it gets popularized, you're going to do a lot better. And the online environment stuff changes really quick, and obviously this format is not like previous formats where there's a lot of counterplay, so you can beat matchups that don't, full steam ahead. But overall, you can definitely take advantage of meta trends and stuff like that to make metagaming plays really good. And in a future video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about deck building and talk about how you can make your metagame plays into more a better list in general. Because if you have a good list and a deck that's a meta call and you're a good player, it's a recipe for success. And even then, you could just play a deck that has a bunch of auto wins and farm a field like I did with Trevenant, and you don't even have to be good at the game to go ahead and do that. And it's not a diss by any means. I'm just saying, like, if you make the right call, you can go really far. And you don't necessarily have to have all the skills that a top player has. So metagaming is definitely one of the most important decks. Sorry for this type of video. I just did not like how the scripting was going. The lack of uploads recently, I've just been super busy. Haven't had a lot of motivation to play the game itself. So I'm going to try and get back on that. We're going to have PTCG Hotline either, I don't know when I'm putting this up, probably tonight or tomorrow, but that will be up. It's going to be with a cool special guest from Australia. I hope you guys enjoy that. And yeah, if you guys like this type of video versus the previous one where I just kind of ramble, talk about stuff off the top of my head, let me know. Be sure to leave a comment or join the Discord. Ask me anything about this type of stuff. If you have any questions about growing as a player, I'd love to help you out. As myself, I was new to the game, and now I have a really cool platform to help other people that were like me when I started. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to hit me up, and I would love to answer your questions. That's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. See you guys.